The morning sun of Kepler 442b cast its pale blue light through the crystal walls of the Galactic University's main hall. Students from across the galaxy moved through the corridors, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. Some floated, others walked, and a few simply existed as glowing energy patterns that drifted between the walls. Zethkri stood near the assignment board, his crystalline body reflecting the light in sharp, angular patterns. His diamond-like form was typical of his people from the Silicon Collective, a race that had evolved on the peaceful mineral world of Quartzheim. Next to him, Bloom of Dawn swayed gently, her plant-like body absorbing the artificial sunlight that the university provided for photosynthetic species. Her green leaves rustled softly as she moved, a sound that always brought peace to those around her. The third member of their study group was harder to spot at first glance. Quantum Whisper existed as a shimmering field of energy, barely visible except for the faint blue glow that marked where his consciousness focused. The three had become friends during their first year at the university. Despite their different forms of life, they shared a common passion for understanding the mysteries of biology across the galaxy. Today, they were waiting for Professor Vexhai to post the assignments for their advanced xenobiology class. Professor Vexhai was ancient, even by the standards of his long-lived species. The Eternal Watchers could live for thousands of years, and Vexhai had spent most of his life studying the strange and wonderful forms of life that existed throughout the galaxy. His multiple eyes could see across dozens of different light spectrums, and his forearms moved with practiced precision as he attached data crystals to the assignment board. Attention, students. Vexhai's voice resonated through the hall in perfect universal standard. Your final research projects have been assigned. Each team will spend the semester studying a different aspect of galactic biology. These are not simple exercises. You will be working with real data, real mysteries, and real dangers. Zethkri's crystalline structure hummed with excitement. This was what he had been waiting for. His people prided themselves on their logical thinking and problem-solving abilities. Whatever puzzle the professor gave them, he was confident they could solve it. Team 7, Vexhai announced, looking directly at the three friends. Your assignment is classification anomalies in galactic habitability records. You will be studying the planet designation Terra Sol 3, also known by its local name as Earth. The three students exchanged what could be considered glances. Quantum Whisper's energy field flickered with interest, while Bloom of Dawn's leaves rustled with curiosity. Zethkri stepped forward to collect their assignment crystal. Professor, Zethkri said, his voice chiming like wind through crystal caves. Could you tell us more about this planet? The name does not appear in our standard databases. Professor Vexhai's expression became serious. His main eyes focused on the students, while his secondary eyes continued to scan the room. Earth is classified as a Deathworld Class 12. It is under permanent quarantine with observation-only protocols. I must warn you that this planet has been the subject of more failed research expeditions than any other world in our records. Bloom of Dawn's leaves turned a slightly deeper shade of green, a sign of confusion among her people. A death world, Professor? But the preliminary data shows it has liquid water, moderate temperatures, and a thriving biosphere. How can it be classified as a death world? That, Vexhai replied, is exactly what you need to discover. The planet should be habitable according to all our models. It supports complex life. It even has a species that has achieved spaceflight and basic interstellar communication. Yet every expedition we have sent there has ended in disaster. Quantum Whisper's energy field pulsed with skepticism. Perhaps the previous research teams were not properly prepared. With our advanced knowledge and modern equipment, surely we can succeed where others have failed. The professor's forearms moved in, what his species used as a gesture of warning. I have been teaching xenobiology for over 2,000 years. I have seen students from every major species in the galaxy. Some of the researchers who attempted to study Earth were among the brightest minds of their generation. They had technology far more advanced than what you have access to as students. Yet Earth defeated them all. Zethkri felt a tremor run through his crystal matrix. It was not fear, he told himself. His people did not experience fear the way biological species did. It was simply the logical response to encountering a problem that had stumped so many brilliant minds before them. What kind of disasters? Bloom of Dawn asked, her voice carrying the musical quality typical of her species. Equipment failures, medical emergencies, psychological breakdowns, and in several cases, complete disappearances. The survivors who made it back all filed reports recommending that Earth be classified as an extinction-level threat to galactic civilization. The three students stood in stunned silence. An extinction-level threat from a single planet? It seemed impossible. The galaxy was home to billions of worlds and trillions of different life forms. How could one small planet pose a threat to all of them? Professor, Quantum Whisper said, his energy field brightening with determination. We accept the challenge. Whatever mystery this Earth holds, we will solve it. Vex High studied the three students carefully. He had seen this confidence before, in other bright young minds who thought they could succeed where their predecessors had failed. Most of them had learned humility the hard way. A few had learned nothing at all because they never returned from their research expeditions. Very well, he said finally, but I want you to understand the gravity of what you are attempting. You will have access to all the archived data from previous expeditions. You will have the best analysis equipment the university can provide. But you will not, under any circumstances, attempt direct contact with Earth or its inhabitants. Is that understood? The three students agreed immediately. Direct contact seemed unnecessary anyway. With all the archived data and their advanced analytical tools, they were confident they could solve the mystery from the safety of their laboratory. Your research period begins immediately, Vex High continued. You have access to Research Lab 7 and all associated equipment. Your preliminary findings are due in 30 Galactic Standard days. Your final report is due at the end of the semester. As the other students collected their assignments and began to disperse, the three friends remained behind, studying the data crystal that contained their project details. Earth, Bloom of Dawn said thoughtfully. Such a simple name for a planet that has apparently baffled our greatest minds. Simple names often hide complex truths, Zethkri observed. My people have a saying, the clearest crystal often holds the deepest mysteries. Quantum Whisper's field pulsed with excitement. Think of it. If we can solve this mystery, we will make history. We will be the researchers who finally explained why Earth is classified as a death world. The three friends made their way to Research Lab 7, their minds already racing with possibilities. Perhaps the previous researchers had been too cautious, or not creative enough in their approaches. Perhaps they had been looking for complex explanations when the truth was something simple that everyone had overlooked. The laboratory was equipped with the finest analytical equipment in the galaxy. Holographic displays could create three-dimensional models of entire planetary systems. Quantum computers could process data from thousands of different sources simultaneously. Bioscanners could analyze the chemical composition of any organic compound down to the molecular level. Zethkri inserted the assignment crystal into the main computer terminal. Immediately, the room filled with holographic displays, showing Earth from dozens of different angles and perspectives. The planet appeared as a blue and green sphere, covered in white clouds that swirled in complex patterns. It looks so peaceful, Bloom of Dawn observed. Look at all that vegetation. My people would love a world like this. The data confirms it, Quantum Whisper added, his consciousness interfacing directly with the computer systems. Oxygen-rich. Atmosphere. Abundant liquid water. Stable orbit around a middle-aged star. By all measures, this should be a paradise world, not a death world. But as they began to dig deeper into the archived files, they found the first hints of the mystery that had stumped so many researchers before them. Every expedition to Earth told the same story. The planet looked perfect from a distance. The initial scans showed nothing dangerous. The approach and landing procedures went smoothly. Then something went wrong. Always something different, but always something that forced the research teams to abandon their missions and flee back to the safety of space. The three students settled in for what they expected to be an interesting but manageable research project. They had no idea that they were about to uncover the most terrifying truth in the galaxy. They could not imagine that their comfortable academic exercise was about to reveal why an entire civilization of peaceful, spacefaring species lived in fear of a small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy. Earth was waiting for them in the data, and Earth never let its students leave unchanged. The restricted archives of the Galactic University contained secrets that most students would never see. Deep within the quantum storage vaults, protected by layers of security that could stop armies, lay the complete records of every expedition. To Earth, Professor Vex High had given the three students special access codes, along with a warning that the information they would find might disturb them. Zethkray stood before the massive data terminal, his crystalline fingers dancing across a control surface. The first files began to appear in the air around them, floating like ghosts made of light. Bloom of Dawn positioned herself where she could absorb both the artificial sunlight and the glow from the displays, while Quantum Whisper spread his consciousness through the computer networks to process multiple files at once. "Here it is," Zethkray announced, his voice ringing with excitement. The first contact mission. 67 years ago, the exploration vessel Harmony's Edge detected radio signals coming from Earth. The holographic display showed a sleek ship moving through space toward the small blue planet. The Harmony's Edge was beautiful in the way that all ships from the Harmonious Collective were beautiful. Its flowing curves and gentle colors reflected the peaceful nature of its builders. The ship carried a crew of 12 researchers and diplomats, all chosen for their expertise in making peaceful contact with new species. "Look at their initial reports," Bloom of Dawn said, her leaves rustling with interest. They described the radio signals as primitive but organized. The humans were broadcasting music, news, and entertainment across their entire planet. The expedition team was excited to meet what they thought would be a young but promising civilization. Quantum Whisper's energy field flickered as he processed the ship's sensor data. The planet showed no signs of weapons technology that could threaten a starship. No orbital defenses, no military installations visible from space. The humans appeared to be completely defenseless. The three students watched the archived footage from the first contact mission with growing fascination. Commander Flux Eternal of the Harmonious Collective was leading the diplomatic team. His species was known throughout the galaxy for their ability to communicate with almost any form of life. They had successfully made first contact with over 200 different civilizations without a single violent incident. The humans had responded to the alien contact with what seemed like typical curiosity and excitement. The archive showed them gathering in large groups, pointing at the alien ship with obvious wonder. Their leaders, two humans named Jake Morrison and Lisa Grant, had quickly organized a formal welcome ceremony. They seemed so normal, Bloom of Dawn observed. Look at how they move, how they interact with each other. They show the same social behaviors we see in dozens of other species. The footage showed Jake Morrison stepping forward to greet the alien visitors. He was a tall human with dark hair and kind eyes. His body language was open and welcoming. He spoke in what the translation computers identified as English, one of Earth's major languages. "Welcome to Earth," Jake Morrison said, his words converted to universal standard by the ship's computers. "We are honored by your visit. Please, let us show you our world and our people." Lisa Grant stood beside him, a shorter human with bright red hair and an easy smile. She carried what appeared to be gifts from their species. The alien team identified them as examples of human art and music, carefully chosen to represent their culture. Commander Flux Eternal responded with the standard peaceful contact protocols. He expressed his people's desire for friendship and understanding. He explained that they came from the stars, not as conquerors, but as fellow travelers seeking knowledge and peace. The initial contact went perfectly. The humans showed no fear of the aliens, despite their strange appearance. They asked intelligent questions about space travel and other worlds. They shared information about their own planet and civilization. Within hours, both sides were planning cultural exchanges and scientific cooperation. "This all seemed so positive," Sethgri said, his crystal structure glowing with confusion. "How did this turn into a disaster?" The answer came in the next set of archived files. The alien delegation had been invited to a formal dinner at what the humans called the United Nations building. It was meant to be a celebration of first contact, a moment that would mark the beginning of Earth's relationship with the galactic community. The dinner had been carefully planned. The humans had prepared foods that their scientists believed would be safe for the alien visitors. They had cleaned and prepared a special dining hall. They had even adjusted the lighting and temperature to make their guests more comfortable. The three students watched the footage from the dinner with growing alarm. Everything seemed normal at first. The humans and aliens sat together around a large table. Jake Morrison gave a speech about friendship between the stars. Lisa Grant presented the gifts they had prepared. Commander Flux Eternal responded with gratitude and hope for the future. Then things began to go wrong. The first sign of trouble came from Whisper of Depths, the expedition's atmospheric specialist. Whisper of Depths was a gas-based life form, existing as a cloud of intelligent particles held together by electromagnetic fields. Within 30 minutes of entering the human building, his form began to compress and darken. "Look at the medical readings," Quantum Whisper said, his energy field pulsing with alarm. "The atmospheric pressure is crushing him. Earth's air is so dense that it's literally squeezing the life out of him." The humans noticed that something was wrong and immediately tried to help. Jake Morrison approached Whisper of Depths with obvious concern, asking if there was anything they could do. But the humans had no idea what was happening. Their world's atmosphere was normal to them. They had no way of understanding that what felt comfortable to them was deadly to their guest. The second crisis involved Flow Like Water, the expedition's cultural specialist. Flow Like Water belonged to a species that lived in a protective layer of specialized slime. The slime was essential to his survival, protecting his delicate skin from harmful radiation and maintaining his body's chemical balance. But Earth's air was full of bacteria, trillions of microscopic life forms that the humans never even noticed. These bacteria began to attack Flow Like Water's protective slime, eating through it like acid. Within an hour, his skin began to burn and blister. The humans tried to help him too, Bloom of Dawn noted, her voice filled with a mixture of admiration and horror. Look at how Lisa Grant immediately called for their medical team. But their doctors had no idea how to treat an alien life form. The third and most serious emergency involved Crystal Song, the expedition's navigation officer. Crystal Song was silicon-based, like Zethkri, but his species had evolved on a world with very little oxygen. Earth's oxygen-rich atmosphere was pure poison to him. With every breath, his crystal matrix began to crack and darken. The three students watched in stunned silence as the archived footage showed the human Jake Morrison actually reaching out to touch Crystal Song, trying to comfort him as he suffered. The moment Jake's skin made contact with Crystal Song's crystal surface, the alien's body began to smoke and burn. He was trying to help, Sethgree whispered, his own crystal structure trembling with shock. The human was actually trying to comfort Crystal Song, but his touch was like acid. The dinner ended in chaos. The alien delegation rushed back to their ship, carrying their dying teammates. The humans followed them, still trying to offer help, still not understanding what had gone wrong. Jake Morrison and Lisa Grant stood at the edge of their landing field, watching the alien ship disappear into the night sky, their faces filled with confusion and sorrow. Commander Flux Eternal's final report was brief and disturbing. 3 of his 12 team members had nearly died, not from any deliberate attack or hostile action, but simply from being in the same room as humans. The report concluded with a recommendation that Earth be classified as a hazardous world requiring special protocols for any future contact. "I don't understand," Bloom of Dawn said, her leaves drooping with distress. The humans were trying to be kind. They wanted to help. How did everything go so wrong? Quantum Whisper processed the medical data from the expedition, his energy field flickering with disbelief. It wasn't the humans' fault. They had no way of knowing that their normal environment would be deadly to us. But that makes it even more frightening. They live in conditions that would kill most galactic species, and to them, it's just normal. Sethgree stared at the holographic image of Earth floating in the center of their laboratory. The beautiful blue and green planets suddenly seemed different, less like a paradise and more like a trap disguised as a garden. "We need to understand more," he said finally. This was just the first contact mission. Professor Vex High said there were many expeditions. What happened to the others? The 3 students prepared to dive deeper into the archives, unaware that they had only seen the beginning of Earth's terrifying story. The first contact mission had failed because of Earth's environment. But as they would soon discover, the planet's environment was only the first of many deadly surprises. Earth had not finished teaching them about terror. The planet was just getting started. Next morning, the 3 students returned to their laboratory with a new sense of purpose. The first contact mission had shown them that Earth was dangerous, but they still did not understand why the planet was classified as a Class 12 death world. Surely the galactic community had learned from the first mission's mistakes. Surely later expeditions had been better prepared. Quantum Whisper was the first to access the archives that day. His energy consciousness flowed through the data networks, searching for information about the most comprehensive study ever conducted on Earth. What he found made his entire being flicker with shock. "Here," he said, his voice carrying an electronic tremor that his species used to express disbelief. "The Meridian Expedition. 200 researchers, led by Dr. Helix Prime himself." Sethgree's crystal structure chimed with recognition. Dr. Helix Prime, the greatest expert on extreme environments in the galaxy? The scientist who mapped the volcanic worlds of the Scorched Sector? The same one, Quantum Whisper confirmed. If anyone could study Earth safely, it would be him. Bloom of Dawn positioned herself to better view the holographic displays that were beginning to form around them. The images showed a massive research vessel, 10 times larger than the Harmony's Edge. The ship bristled with scientific equipment and carried the most advanced environmental protection systems known to galactic science. "Look at the preparation that went into this mission," Bloom of Dawn observed. "They spent 5 years planning. They brought atmospheric processors, water purification systems, and medical equipment designed to handle any possible emergency. They even brought a full military escort in case they encountered hostile life forms." The expedition had approached Earth with confidence. Dr. Helix Prime had studied the reports from the first contact mission and believed he understood the dangers. His team was prepared for Earth's crushing atmosphere, its bacterial contamination, and its oxygen-rich environment. They had come to study Earth's biosphere and finally understand what made the planet so unique. They had chosen to establish their research base in what humans called the Amazon rainforest. The decision made perfect sense from a scientific perspective. The Amazon contained more biodiversity than any other region on Earth. If they wanted to understand Earth's life forms, it was the logical place to start. The three students began reviewing the daily reports from the expedition with growing fascination. The first few days seemed to go well. The researchers had successfully established their base camp, deployed their equipment, and begun their initial surveys of the local ecosystem. Day 1 report, Sethgree read aloud. Base camp established successfully. Initial atmospheric readings confirm previous data. Oxygen levels remain dangerously high, but our atmospheric processors are functioning normally. No sign of hostile life forms. Beginning biological surveys tomorrow. But even in that first report, there were hints of the problems to come. The atmospheric processors were working harder than expected. Earth's air was not just rich in oxygen. It was filled with organic compounds that the machines had never encountered before. Spores, pollen, and microscopic life forms that seemed to exist in impossible numbers. Day 2 report, Quantum Whisper continued. Atmospheric processors running at maximum capacity. The air here contains more active biological material than we have ever recorded. Our filtration systems are struggling to keep up. Several team members reporting mild respiratory irritation despite environmental suits. The expedition zoologist, a careful scientist named Dr. Branchy Turtle, had been the first to realize that they were in serious trouble. His job was to catalog and study the life forms they encountered. What he found in the Amazon rainforest challenged everything he thought he knew about biology. Listen to this, Bloom of Dawn said, her leaves rustling with distress as she read from Dr. Branchy Turtle's personal log. Day 3, personal notes. The biodiversity here is impossible. In a single square meter of soil, we have identified over 1,000 different species of bacteria. The trees around our camp host hundreds of different insects, parasites, and fungal organisms. Every surface, every drop of water, every breath of air contains life forms that are actively trying to consume each other. The expedition had come to Earth expecting to find a world with complex life, but they had not expected to find a world where every life form was engaged in a constant battle for survival. The plants were not just growing peacefully in the sunlight. They were engaged in chemical warfare, releasing toxins to kill their competitors and attract organisms that would spread their seeds. The animals were even more disturbing. Dr. Branchy Turtle's reports described creatures that had evolved specifically to hunt and kill other creatures. Predators that could track their prey across vast distances. Parasites that could take control of their hosts' minds. Insects that could inject venom powerful enough to kill creatures many times their size. Day 5 report, Sethgree read, his voice growing quieter. Dr. Branchy Turtle found dead in his research tent. Cause of death appears to be respiratory failure. His environmental suit was intact, but something had gotten through the filtration system. Medical team is investigating. The investigation revealed that Dr. Branchy Turtle had been killed by a fungus. Not a large, obvious fungus, but microscopic spores that had somehow bypassed all of their protective equipment. The spores had taken root in his respiratory system and begun growing, suffocating him from the inside. How is that possible? Bloom of Dawn asked. Their equipment was designed to filter out anything dangerous. The fungus had evolved to be smaller than their filters could catch. Quantum Whisper explained, his energy field pulsing with horror. It was specifically designed by millions of years of evolution to invade and consume other life forms. Their protective equipment was designed for normal biological hazards. not for life forms that had been shaped by constant warfare. The expeditions. Problems multiplied rapidly after that. Their water purification systems began failing as Earth's water revealed new surprises. The water was not just contaminated with bacteria. It contained dissolved minerals that actually ate through their filtration membranes. Acids that had been created by the interaction of organic compounds with the planet's geological processes. By day 7, the expedition members were beginning to show signs of psychological stress. The constant sounds of the rainforest, which humans found peaceful, registered as alarm calls to most galactic species. The chirping of insects sounded like predator warnings. The calls of birds triggered fight or flight responses that kept the researchers in a constant state of panic. Day 8 report. Quantum Whisper read. 3 more team members have suffered complete psychological breakdowns. Dr. Flowseeker refuses to leave his protective pod. He claims the jungle is screaming at him. Medical team recommends evacuation for affected personnel. But the expedition's breaking point came when they encountered the local inhabitants. Not the humans, who lived in cities far from the research site, but the people who actually lived in the rainforest. Indigenous humans who had made their home in what the expedition considered to be a death trap. The first encounter was recorded by the expedition's surveillance equipment. A small group of humans had approached the research camp, apparently curious about the strange new arrivals. The humans appeared to be a family, 2 adults and several children, ranging in age from what appeared to be very young to nearly adult. The expedition team watched in horror as the humans moved through the rainforest with casual ease. They walked barefoot on ground that the expedition had classified as extremely hazardous. They drank water directly from streams that had destroyed the aliens' purification systems. They breathed the air without any protective equipment at all. But the moment that shattered the expedition's confidence came when they observed one of the human children at play. The child, a small boy who could not have been more than 8 years old, was playing with something that made the expedition's xenobiologist scream in terror. "Look at this footage," Sethkri said, his crystal structure dimming with shock. "The human child is holding a creature that our database classifies as extreme hazard level 9. The creature was a spider. To the human child, it was simply an interesting animal to observe and play with. The child held it gently, watched it walk across his hands, and then carefully placed it back where he had found it. He showed no fear, no caution, no awareness that he was handling something that could kill most galactic species with a single bite. The child is using it as a toy," Bloom of Dawn whispered, her leaves trembling. "A toy." The expedition's final report, written as their ship fled Earth's atmosphere, contained observations that would haunt galactic scientists for decades. The humans were not just surviving on Earth. They were thriving. They had turned the planet's deadliest creatures into companions. They had learned to eat foods that would kill most species instantly. They had built entire civilizations and environments that would be uninhabitable by galactic standards. Dr. Helix Prime's final log entry was brief but devastating. "We came to Earth to study its life forms. Instead, we discovered that the most dangerous life form on the planet is not some terrible predator or venomous creature. It is the species that has learned to live with all of these dangers as if they were normal." The third day of their research began with a question that none of the 3 students wanted to ask, but all of them needed answered. If Earth was so dangerous that it had defeated every expedition sent to study it, what made it different from other worlds? What had gone so terribly wrong in Earth's development that it had become a factory for creating the most dangerous life forms in the galaxy? Quantum Whisper was the first to access the Galactic Survey's comprehensive planetary database. His consciousness flowed through the vast networks of information, comparing Earth to the thousands of other habitable worlds that supported intelligent life across the galaxy. I am running a comparison analysis, he announced, his energy field flickering with concentration. Earth versus every other habitable world in our database. The results should show us what makes Earth unique. Zethkri and Bloom of Dawn gathered around the holographic displays as the data began to appear. At first, the comparisons seemed normal. Earth was slightly larger than the galactic average for habitable worlds. Its star was typical, neither too hot nor too cold. Its orbit was stable, providing consistent seasons and climate patterns. As the analysis went deeper, disturbing patterns began to emerge. Look at the gravity readings, Zethkri said, his crystal structure chiming with alarm. Earth's gravitational pull is 3 times stronger than the galactic average for worlds that support intelligent life. Bloom of Dawn's leaves rustled with confusion. How do the humans even move around? Most species would be crushed under that kind of gravitational pressure. The computer provided the answer with charts showing human bone density and muscle structure. Humans had evolved bones that were solid and thick, more like the armor plating of military vehicles than the lightweight structures most galactic species used. Their muscles were dense and powerful, built to function under crushing gravitational force. They do not just survive under high gravity, Quantum Whisper observed. They have been shaped by it. Every human is essentially wearing a suit of armor made from their own bones. The atmospheric analysis was even more disturbing. Earth's air pressure was crushing by galactic standards. Most intelligent species had evolved on worlds with thin, gentle atmospheres. Earth's thick, heavy air would collapse the lung structures of most galactic life forms within minutes. 21% oxygen, Zethkri read from the analysis. The galactic average for habitable worlds is 8%. Earth's atmosphere contains enough oxygen to be toxic to 89% of known life forms. But the truly terrifying discovery came when they analyzed Earth's weather systems. The planet's weather was driven by a combination of solar radiation and planetary rotation that created storms more powerful than the weapon systems of most spacefaring civilizations. The database showed them images of Earth's hurricanes, tornadoes, and thunderstorms. These were not gentle weather patterns like those found on most habitable worlds. They were catastrophic events that could level entire cities and reshape landscapes. Yet humans had learned to predict them, prepare for them, and even rebuild after them passed. Look at this, Bloom of Dawn said, her voice filled with disbelief. The humans have built their cities in areas where these massive storms occur regularly. They know the storms are coming, but they stay anyway. The geological analysis revealed that Earth was a world in constant upheaval. The planet's surface was divided into massive plates that moved and crashed into each other, creating earthquakes and volcanic eruptions that could destroy entire regions without warning. Most intelligent species chose to live on geologically stable worlds where such disasters were impossible. But humans had built their civilizations directly on top of these unstable geological systems. They had learned to engineer buildings that could survive earthquakes. They had developed warning systems for volcanic eruptions. They had even learned to use the planet's geological instability to generate power for their cities. They have turned their planet's attempts to kill them into tools, Quantum Whisper said, his energy field pulsing with something that might have been admiration if it had not been mixed with so much fear. The biological analysis was the most disturbing of all. The 3 students had known that Earth supported complex life, but they had not understood the true nature of that life until they saw it compared to other worlds. Most habitable worlds evolved what galactic scientists called cooperative ecosystems. Life forms on these worlds had learned to work together, sharing resources and supporting each other in stable, peaceful relationships. Predation existed, but it was gentle and limited. Most species survived by finding ways to help each other. Rather than by fighting Earth, had evolved something completely different. Every single life form on Earth is engaged in a constant struggle for survival. Zethkri read from the analysis, his voice growing quieter with each word. Plants wage chemical warfare against each other. Microorganisms have evolved countless ways to kill and consume each other. The larger creatures exist in a complex web of predation, where every species is both hunter and prey. The analysis showed them images from Earth's ecosystems that made all three students recoil in shock. Lions hunting zebras with brutal efficiency. Spiders paralyzing their prey with venom and consuming them alive. Parasitic wasps that laid their eggs inside living caterpillars, so that their young could eat their hosts from the inside out. This is not an ecosystem, Bloom of Dawn whispered, her leaves turning pale with horror. This is a battlefield. Every creature on Earth is a weapon designed to kill other creatures. But the humans were different from all the other life forms on Earth. They were not just another predator in the planet's endless war. They were something unprecedented in galactic history. They had learned to dominate every other life form on their planet. The analysis showed how humans had spread across every continent on Earth. They had conquered environments that would kill most galactic species instantly. They lived in deserts where the heat would melt most organic compounds. They thrived in Arctic regions where the cold would freeze most life forms solid. They had even learned to live underwater and in the sky. Look at this data on human settlements, Quantum Whisper said, his consciousness processing information at speeds that made the air around him shimmer. They have built cities in places that should be uninhabitable, on the edges of active volcanoes, in regions where massive storms occur regularly, even in areas where the local wildlife could kill them easily. The most shocking discovery was how humans had learned to control the other life forms on their planet. They had not just survived Earth's biological warfare. They had won it. They have domesticated their planet's predators, Zethkri said, his crystal structure resonating with disbelief. Look at these images. Humans living with creatures that could kill them instantly. Wolves, tigers, bears. They have turned Earth's apex predators into companions. The database showed them pictures of humans with their domesticated animals. Dogs that had evolved from wolves, one of Earth's most efficient pack hunters. Cats that were descended from solitary predators, capable of killing prey much larger than themselves. Horses that could crush a human with a single kick, but had been trained to carry humans on their backs. They do not just survive alongside these creatures, Bloom of Dawn observed. They have formed partnerships with them. The predators of Earth serve the humans willingly. But the most disturbing revelation came when they analyzed human biology itself. Humans were not just adapted to Earth's hostile environment. They were the ultimate product of it. The analysis showed that human bones were dense enough to be used as weapons. Their muscles could generate force that would crush most alien species. Their cardiovascular system could function under stress, levels that would cause most galactic life forms to die from shock. More frightening still, their immune system was so aggressive that it could adapt to and overcome biological weapons in real time. Their pain tolerance was so high that they could function normally with injuries that would incapacitate most other species. Look at their psychological profile, Quantum Whisper said, his energy field flickering with growing alarm. They are perfectly adapted for violence and survival. They can function normally in high-stress situations that would cause most species to shut down completely. They can make life-or-death decisions in seconds. They can coordinate complex strategies while under extreme pressure. The analysis revealed that humans could even find enjoyment in dangerous situations that would terrorize other species. They had created something they called extreme sports, where they deliberately put themselves in life-threatening situations for entertainment. They jump out of flying vehicles for fun, Zethkri said, his voice barely above a whisper. They climb mountains that could kill them. They dive into deep water where predators live. They do these things because they enjoy the danger. The three students stared at the holographic display showing Earth floating in space. The beautiful blue and green planet no longer looked peaceful to them. It looked like what it actually was. A weapon factory that had been running for billions of years, constantly creating more efficient and deadly life forms. And at the top of that deadly pyramid sat humanity. Now I understand why every expedition to Earth has failed. The final phase of their research led the three students into the deepest and most classified sections of the Galactic Archives. These were files that even most professors had never seen, documents so sensitive that they required special permission from the Galactic Council itself. Professor Vexhai had given them access with a warning that what they found might change their understanding of the universe forever. Quantum Whisper was the first to breach the security protocols. His energy consciousness flowed through layers of encryption that had been designed to keep these secrets hidden from all but the highest levels of galactic government. What he found in those protected files made his entire being flicker with terror. There are records here of direct contact between humans and the Galactic Council, he announced, his voice carrying harmonics of fear that his species used only in the most extreme emergencies. The humans came to us. Zethkri's crystal structure resonated with shock. That is impossible. Earth is quarantined. No human ships have ever left their solar system. According to these files, they did, Quantum Whisper replied. 70 years ago, just 3 years after the first contact disaster, a human delegation arrived at the Galactic Council headquarters. They came in a ship of their own design. The holographic displays filled with images of a human spacecraft that defied everything the three students thought they knew about Earth's technology level. The ship was crewed by galactic standards, built from heavy metals and powered by controlled nuclear explosions. But it had successfully traveled between the stars, something that most species took centuries to achieve after first contact with the galactic community. They built this themselves, Bloom of Dawn observed, her leaves rustling, with amazement and fear, without any help from galactic technology. They went from first contact to interstellar travel in just 3 years. The delegation that emerged from the human ship consisted of 5 individuals. The archives identified them as Carol Baker, a woman who served as their primary diplomat, and Steve Murphy, a man who appeared to be their military representative. The other 3 were scientists and engineers who had helped design their spacecraft. The 3 students watched the archived footage of the humans' arrival at the Galactic Council with growing disbelief. The humans walked through the council, chambers without any protective equipment, breathing the artificial atmosphere that had been carefully designed to be safe for most galactic species. They showed no signs of discomfort or distress, even though the atmospheric mixture would have been completely alien to them. Look at how they move, Zethkri said, his voice filled with awe and terror. They show no fear, no hesitation. They are walking into a chamber filled with the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and they act as if they belong there. Carol Baker had addressed the Galactic Council with confidence and dignity. Her words, translated into universal standard, were polite but firm. She explained that humanity had received the galactic community's messages and understood that their world had been classified as dangerous. She had come to prove that humans could interact peacefully with other species. The council members had agreed to a cultural exchange, believing that controlled contact might help them understand why Earth was so dangerous. They had invited the human delegation to demonstrate their species' capacity for peaceful cooperation. The demonstration was intended to be a simple sharing of art, music, and scientific knowledge. The humans had accepted enthusiastically. They brought samples of their entertainment media, Quantum Whisper reported, his energy field pulsing with growing alarm as he processed the archived files. They wanted to share what they called their culture with the galactic community. The first presentation had been human music. The three students listened to archived samples with complete bewilderment. The sounds were unlike anything in galactic culture, where most species created music that was gentle and harmonious. Human music was aggressive and intense. It spoke of struggle, conflict, and victory over impossible odds. The Galactic Council had listened politely, but many members had found the music disturbing. The rhythms triggered fight or flight responses in several species. The lyrics spoke of concepts that most galactic civilizations had abandoned millennia ago. War, conquest, and individual glory achieved through violence. But the music was only the beginning. They shared what they called children's stories. Bloom of Dawn read from the archives, her voice growing quieter with each word. Tales that they told to their young to teach them about life and morality. The three students accessed the human stories with growing horror. These were not the gentle teaching tales that most species use to educate their children. They were stories of violence, survival, and conquest that would be classified as psychological warfare by galactic standards. The humans had shared stories about heroes who fought terrible monsters, children who overcame deadly dangers, and individuals who achieved greatness through violence and struggle. To the humans, these were normal stories meant to inspire and educate. To the Galactic Council, they were glimpses into the mind of a species that had been shaped by constant warfare. Listen to this story they shared, Sethkri said, his crystal structure dimming with shock. It is about a small human female who goes into a forest filled with dangerous predators, meets a creature that wants to eat her, and then tricks the creature into being destroyed. They told this story to explain how they teach their children to handle dangerous situations. The cultural exchange had continued for several hours, with each human presentation revealing more disturbing aspects of their civilization. They shared examples of their visual art, which depicted battles, struggles, and triumphs over adversity. They demonstrated their physical capabilities, showing strength and endurance that seemed impossible for creatures of their size. But the session that ended the cultural exchange came when the humans offered to share what they called their action movies. Steve Murphy had explained that action movies were one of humanity's most popular forms of entertainment. They were stories about heroes who faced impossible odds and won through courage, strength, and determination. He assured the council that these were mild examples, suitable for all audiences. The archived records showed that the first movie clip lasted exactly 37 seconds before the emergency protocols were activated. The Galactic Council declared a mental health emergency. Quantum Whisper reported, his energy field flickering with disbelief. 17 council members suffered psychological breakdowns. 5 more had to be hospitalized for shock. The session was terminated immediately. The 3 students accessed the psychological evaluation reports from the council members who had witnessed the human entertainment. The reports described scenes of violence so intense that most galactic species could not comprehend them. Humans engaged in combat using weapons that could destroy entire buildings. Heroes who survived injuries that would kill most life forms instantly. Characters who seemed to enjoy putting themselves in deadly danger. The humans were confused by the reaction. Bloom of Dawn noted, reading from Carol Baker's statement after the incident. She kept asking what was wrong. She said that what they had shown was actually much tamer than their usual entertainment. She offered to show them something she called a war movie instead. The offer had sent the remaining council members into complete panic. The final document in the archive was a unanimous resolution by the Galactic Council, signed by representatives of every major civilization in known space. The 3 students read it with growing understanding of why Earth was truly feared throughout the galaxy. Resolved, that the species known as humans from the planet designated Earth are to be considered an existential threat to galactic civilization. Their physical capabilities, psychological conditioning, and cultural values are incompatible with peaceful coexistence. Direct contact is forbidden. The planet is to be quarantined indefinitely. Any attempt by humans to leave their solar system is to be met with immediate containment protocols. May the cosmic forces have mercy on any species that encounters them in the void. The resolution had been implemented immediately. Automated monitoring stations were placed around Earth's solar system, programmed to alert the galactic community. If humans ever developed faster-than-light travel, defense fleets were positioned at strategic points throughout the galaxy, ready to respond if humanity ever tried to expand beyond their homeworld. The three students sat in stunned silence as they completed their research. They finally understood why Earth was called a death world, and why every expedition to the planet had ended in disaster. It was not because the planet was dangerous to visit, though it was. It was because the planet had created something that had never existed before in galactic history. Zethkri was the first to speak, his voice ringing like a funeral bell. They do not just survive on a death world. They are the death world. Every human alive is a living weapon created by billions of years of the most intense evolutionary pressure in the known galaxy. Bloom of Dawn's leaves had turned completely pale, a sign of deep shock among her people. The most terrifying part is not their capabilities. It is that they do not seem to realize how terrifying they are. They think they are normal. They think everyone lives the way they do.